Okay, so good evening everyone and welcome back once again to my YouTube channel. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here once again. And I remain a Ferrari scholar. We're going to be discussing on a relatively new issue today, which is outside the scope of international space law, which is very much interesting, and that is on the area of international sports law. So without further ado, we'll go forward to define what sports law is all about, then we'll see the outline that we have for today and what we're going to be discussing further on. So moving further, we see that, as shown on the screen, sports law is a specialized area of law that governs legal issues in professional and amateur sports. It encompasses multiple legal disciplines, including contract law, labor law, intellectual property law, antitrust law, tort law, and regulatory compliance. Further, we are going to look at one of the foremost areas of sports law, which we already considered when we were discussing the definition of sports law, which is the area we call contract law. Okay, so contract law generally has to do with signing of agreements and contracts, entering into a contract between two persons or even more than two persons that has reciprocal legal binding to do or not to do particular things. But in this situation, contract law here has to do with contract law in sports. So we're going to restrict it to that. So the major area I want to be discussing on in contract law is the issue of transfer of players, as I already stated. We're going to see how players move from one club to another and the process that solidifies it. So we see here that the first and most important thing that has to go on is negotiation between clubs. So two clubs have to agree that indeed they want to sell this particular player, and upon that agreement, the chances of a player moving to another club is very, very high. But now we also know that there is the issue of release clause, where clubs put in a certain amount of money that if that valuation is matched by another club, then the player in question can move to the other club. So for instance, we know the very infamous player who goes by the name Neymar, who currently plies his trade at Santos FC, who before now was a player at Barcelona before he moved to PSG. So the world record fee at the time, which yes, I think still currently stands at a whopping 222 million euros, was enough to release Neymar from Barcelona to PSG, even when Barcelona were hesitant on letting Neymar leave the club for that amount of money, or leave the club at all, because of how important he was for the club. Moving forward, we see the issue of personal terms and player agreements. So this has to do with an agreement between the club and the player. So it governs, as seen on the screen, key issues like salary and bonuses. How much am I going to be paid? Are there bonuses on my contract? Length of contract, how long is it going to be? Is it 4, 5, 6, 7 years? Performance incentives, goal benefit, this has to do with goal bonuses, assist bonuses, and of course image rights and sponsorship. So we know of the brand called CR7, which is a very world-renowned brand. So this clearly explains the issue of image rights and sponsorships. So wherever CR7 goes to, that brand goes with him, and of course he's always the face of the club, any club he goes to. The same thing applies to Messi, who plays it currently at Inter Miami. So moving forward, we see the next one, which is the issue of medical examination. So after the personal terms have been agreed upon, the player now proceeds to have a medical. Okay, so you'll be tested to see if you are fit to play for a particular club, and if the club finds out that you're not fit to play, then your medical will be terminated, or you'll be said to have failed your medical. Now, over the years, I've been watching contracts, transfers of players from one club to another, and scarcely have I seen a situation where a player has failed his medical. The last time I remember something so vividly was the case of Loic Remy.
My super score says 9, would be 10 if the ops went. My super score says 9, would be 10 if the op. 110 on my wrist, I'm thriving. Caught back in, I went skydiving. My London heat match crazy, I wish that it weren't, I can't go back.
Said to move to Liverpool, and he failed his medical. So that's an example of that. So the next thing on our agenda here is the contract signing and registration. Of course, after that has been done, the player now proceeds to sign his contract as agreed by the clubs and by the player as well. So the new contract that is signed is submitted to the league authorities, be it FIFA, UEFA, NBA, and of course NFL, whichever one it may be. A work permit and visa is issued to the player, and stuff like that. So we have examples like Javier Mascherano and Carlos Tevez case in 2006 that had to do with ownership issues that led to legal disputes. So these are the major issues that surround signing the player. And then finally, we see the official announcement and player presentation. So the very famous presentation of a player that I can remember is the one that held in 2009 when Cristiano Ronaldo moved for a record fee at the time for £80 million to Real Madrid from Manchester United. And that presentation was epic. The recent one, which saw Mbappe move from PSG to Real Madrid, was also an epic one that was similar to the move of Ronaldo. So we see that players are presented by clubs. They can decide to present them before the first game of the season. They can decide to present them during the course of the season, but during the transfer window, because that's when players can be signed, and there are other things that they can also do to spice up their presentation program. So that's just basically it.